Hey, you guys, we're back. So we are back. Shit Black Girls Watch is back. It's been like 4 years.
It's been a while. It's been a while for good reason, but it has been a while.
Yes, but we are going to be coming back this summer, but we could not talk about Sinners.
Yeah,
So
no, this had to happen, and neither one of us were even upset about doing it. Like this
no.
is one of the most exciting conversations I've had in a while about movies.
So if you're new to the podcast, I am Mia Danae Barrington, and I am here with my best friend,
Trish,
Trish,
you
Trish, no last name like Prince. That's how
know,
we ride.
obviously, yeah. Should I tell
So,
them it's it's Dr. Trish now?
okay. So, so since we have not been here in a minute, we are going to give a very quick update on
Very
what's
quick.
going on in life. You can get the full update when we actually launch season, I think it's 3 or 4. But when we relaunch our seasons, you will get the full update of what has been going on these past few years. Trish, would you like to start?
That is my update. So it's Dr. Trish now. That's pretty much it. The reason we had
Say
to
it
take
with your chest.
The reason we even had the hiatus is because finishing a PhD is hard, but we got it done. And now we're back in full effect. So that and your girl just bought a house.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're such an adult.
You know what? Ew. Nobody
So,
asked for this.
so when we started the podcast, we were roommates. Her ass moved
Hmm.
out on me.
Oh, I'm in Philly now.
Yes, she's in Philly now. I'm still in New York in the Bronx. And yeah, she's a homeowner and she's a doctor. I'm
Yay.
like, what is my update? I should have went first. Okay, no.
It is.
Life is still good. Okay. So my update is that I quit my job at Condé Nast and I am a full-time entrepreneur.
And
Yes, I left the white man's corporate America. You know what I'm saying?
we're
And
gonna talk a lot
so
about the white man today.
And so I am building my media empire, which is Shit Black Girls Watch, along with the Real Noir Network, which is a platform for filmmakers of color where I provide production resources to help them navigate the industry better and book their next gig. So check that out. And I also, to make the money, the coins, I work with business owners to help them scale their businesses with digital content and digital marketing. Okay, so those are our updates. Now let's get into this episode of Sinners. We have some new segments, which we're excited about. But before we get into it, you know we love a drinking game. So we're actually doing a drinking game
Yes, yes, we are.
and we want y'all to join in. So anytime we say the word vampire, you gotta take a sip of something. So what you
Yes.
got? What you got, Trish?
I have a mimosa because you know I'm a lightweight and I'm more of a smoker. So if you are playing this and you are a smoker, you're welcome to take a hit or two.
And I have my wine in my beautiful glass. This is my when I feel in royal glass. This is what I bring out.
I also have some electrolyte water because I'm 35.
All right. So let's get into our first segment, which is shit you should be watching, which is obviously Sinners. Sinners, Sinners, Sinners. You should be watching. If you haven't gone to movie theaters already, you need to watch it. Period.
So when we're thinking about a movie like Sinners, obviously, there's the undead um
Wait, what?
bloodsuckers because we can't say vampire no more.
Oh, I forgot. I forgot my damn stuff. Okay,
Damn
let me
it.
see it. Let me check this out. I'm like, that's not the plot. What are you talking about?
I was trying to figure out how to talk about it.
Okay,
Anyways,
we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
we're
run it
gonna
back.
pause. We're gonna pause just to say the plot real quick, and after that,
Okay. Okay. Or maybe we'll just move it around and then from the plot on, it's no longer you could say vampire. Okay, so Sinners is a really interesting take on the traditional vampire story. It's genre bending. You've got kind of like Afrofuturism with that montage scene. You've got like deep Southern roots. You've got mysticism. You've got horror, you got comedy, you got action, you got it all in there. And it pulls from a lot of historical trauma that is, you know, intertwined in it's the Delta, right?
Yeah, the Delta, Mississippi.
Yep. And there's a lot of different themes throughout it. You might be seeing think pieces all over the place about it, and everybody's talking about it. There's think pieces on trauma. There's think pieces on like religion. There's think pieces on black magic and what that means, and just kind of a new take on what the horror genre looks like, especially when you're talking about racialized bodies. I don't even think
Okay.
I spoiled it.
You didn't, but for someone that doesn't know what the movie is even about, give that breakdown.
So you have two twins, Stack and Smoke, who are back in the Delta after coming back from Chicago, and they are opening a juke joint. And to open that juke joint, they make a deal with the White Devil. And the White Devil happened to be the Klansman who sells them an old mill where they can open the juke joint. They spend the day, this takes place over one day. They spend the day gathering a very colorful cast to help them open the juke joint that night. So they want to do a same day opening. Um, and then day turns into night, and the night is long and it is arduous. Um, and that's the part I won't spoil for you. But there's a lot of action, there's a lot of blood, there are a lot of different emotions that come up throughout this.
And
And then go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'll just interject real quick, is that the vampires are attracted to them because of the character Sammy, who is an amazing blues singer, who is the cousins of Smoke and Stack. He's singing in the juke joint for the night, and his voice basically attracts the devil, which are the vampires. And so now the vampires are after Sammy to allow him to become part of their undead world of vampires, to recruit basically more vampires and be this collection of diverse, collective,
It's
loving
a rainbow
vampires.
coalition of vampires.
Okay. So now that we are actually talking about Sammy, I just want to talk about Miles Canton, which this was his breakout role.
Hmm.
He is, to us, he was an unknown actor and singer, but he grew up in the church. Like, he has been singing for a very long time, and he has the most amazing, sultry, deep
Hmm.
voice that I've ever heard. It it was perfect for this film. It gave blues
Hmm.
instantly.
He was also a really good he was really good at emoting, and I always enjoy that from male characters. When we talk about like the Jonathan Majors and people like that who are really good at, or Daniel Kaluuya that are really good at holding masculinity and emotion in the same space, I thought Sammy did a really good job of that. For this to be his debut role and be able to be that emotive and
Oh
that
my
in the moment
gosh.
was
Yeah.
really, really great. What a masterclass.
And I love that his voice is, even though it's deep, you can understand him. And I only say this because I had a father that had an extremely deep voice. And
I
sometimes I
didn't.
didn't understand my daddy. I'm like, what?
Like, what'd you say?
Yeah. So
Your
sometimes
dad did have a deep voice.
his voice is so deep, and sometimes it would sound like muffled or like jumbled when he was
Hmm.
speaking. So the fact that Miles was so clear and his tone was so rich, I was just
Hmm.
like
A
enamored
lot of
by it.
control. Like there was a lot of control in that voice. And I think one of the biggest treats is when he starts singing in the car. And I feel like I had the exact same reaction that Michael B. Jordan had or Smoke had when they was,
Traveling,
girl, I was like,
traveling.
that's gonna make them some money. They're about to make some money. Cause that young man could sing.
Yes, I love Miles in this film, and like I'm excited to see what he's gonna do next, because I'm excited
Hmm.
for him to actually drop an album. I
Me
feel like
too.
the album should have been dropped this week.
Hmm.
Like, where's the album, Miles?
Because that is a very, very, very beautiful voice.
But let's actually get into, before we get too deep into the movie, and all the things that we love about it, let's get into the diversity of the crew, because I don't think a lot of people know just how diverse the crew was, behind the camera. And I love the fact that Ryan Coogler is, his game plan to winning is to have people that he trusts, people that have been longtime co-workers, for example, Michael B. Jordan and Lugwin, who we'll talk about. But he also loves to bring in women, and I appreciate that. So his cinematographer is Autumn Durald Arkapaw. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, but she actually became the first woman cinematographer to shoot on 65 millimeter for this feature film. So she made history with this project. And she's
Shout
also
out to her.
Mexican Filipino, which is, I think, so unheard of when it comes to female cinematographers or people, women just working behind the camera. We don't see
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Hispanic women, a lot of Asian women. So the fact that she's like Mexican Filipino is like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then also a lot of women that were working on the crew was the production designer who is Hannah Bleacher. She is an African American woman who has won an Oscar before for Black Panther. So again, Ryan Coogler pulls from the people that he knows,
Mm-hmm. That
can
he's worked
bring,
with.
yes, can bring the trophies. The costume designer obviously was Ruth E. Carter, who was a two-time Oscar winner, who also worked on Black Panther. And then we have his wife, Ryan Coogler's wife, Zinzi Coogler,
Mm-hmm.
was a producer on this project. And look, we need to keep the bag in the family. That's how I feel.
Can we just say or make note of how these Black women teams or these diverse women teams are really pushing these men to like greater heights? Because even when you think about somebody like Jalen Hurts, isn't that another person who has like an all
Oh,
woman
yes.
team? It's like,
Yes.
look at what is possible when you have the right people, but not just the right people, but the right people behind you. I feel like that's
Yes.
worth mentioning.
That's beautiful. So, getting into his choreographer, who again I might be messing up his name, Akaman AJ Jones. He also worked on Black Panther. He choreographed this project, which I thought he did an amazing job with the dancers and the choreography. We're going to talk about the how they shot some of these scenes a little later on. And then
Hmm.
lastly, I want to mention the executive producer, who was Rebecca Cho, who was Korean American. She is also the senior vice president of Proximity Media, which is Ryan Coogler's production company. So Ryan, he just knows how to put winners around him.
Hmm.
Like I don't even like we don't even have to say anything about it. It's like we are saying how amazing Ryan is, but it's really the team as well that allows him
Hmm.
to shine as bright as he does.
Yeah, and he's really intentional about the team he picks, almost like Issa was saying about networking across, not up. And Ryan is, or Ryan, I don't call him Ryan, I call him Cougs. But Cougs is really good about like picking the people who it almost seems like he has to have an emotional connection to you to some degree in order to work with you. There has to be a trust established with him and Michael B. Jordan. They're pretty much friends. With
Mm-hmm.
him and his wife, with him and Ludwig, even. Is it Ludwig?
Yep, Ludwig.
And him and Ludwig, it's like they went to school together. So it's he has these really deep ties and connections to the people around him, but it's more of a like you care about me and you can push me and let me shine and be great because I care about you. And there's like this mutualistic exchange that's taking place where instead of the transactional nature of the way people typically network, where it's like you give me something, I get bigger. You give me something, I get bigger. And there's not like this, it's very transactional.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I just love it. So many people can take so many notes from it. I actually did a case study for the Real Noir Network. If you guys want to check that out on 7 things that any filmmaker can learn from Ryan Coogler. So that's on our social media
That
pages.
was a great post.
Thank you. I liked it a lot. So yeah, we're not going to get into that, but you can check it out if you want to. So let's actually, since we're talking about women, let's continue to talk about the women of this film and talk about the Black women on the screen,
Hmm.
which obviously Wunmi Mosaku and Jamie Lawson, who played Annie and
Berlin.
yes, thank you, girl, Pearline.
So I just want to say, one, both of these women are absolutely gorgeous, but there was something about that Pearline. Mm-mm-mm.
When she walked away on that train station, I said, "Ooh,
Girl,
Pearline,
I was
okay."
I sultry. I was like, what are you? Should I get up? Should I follow you? What do you want from me?
Look, I know why Sammy was mesmerized, you know?
Girl, and we know Sammy was mesmerized because that man said when I tell you we're gonna skip around a little bit, but when I tell you everybody's talking about these sex scenes in this movie, but the one with Pearline is my favorite
Yeah.
because that man looked at her and said, "You're beautiful. I just want to taste you."
But okay, did you catch? Because I feel like not a lot of people caught this when they were driving. Sammy and what was it, Stack? Stack was teaching
How to
him
eat
how to.
pussy.
Yes, I didn't catch it
Hmm.
the first time I saw the movie. The second time, and I was like, he was talking about that ice cream, how to lick that ice cream cone. I said,
Oh,
oh,
oh, girl, I caught that the first time. I said, "Excuse me." Like, he said, "It's a little button. You gotta
yeah,
press the little button." And he got in there. She said, "Let me wash up first. I walked here." He said, "You're beautiful. I just want to taste you."
right.
I was like,
When a man
Sammy.
really wants you, he don't care what's going on.
But imagine a man tell you that in Sammy's voice. What? You can have whatever you want here. Oh, and Wumi.
Rumi, gorgeous. Oh my God. So that final scene of her in the all white holding the
Mm-hmm.
baby, she looked
Beautiful.
so mesmerizing. I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, well, I hated that she went out because for some reason in my spirit, I was like, she gonna make it.
Girl, I said the same thing. I was like, she's gonna be like the final girl where she's the last one standing. I actually thought Michael B. Jordan was gonna die, and I was like, but she's gonna be the one standing, almost like Journey Smollett in Lovecraft.
You mean you thought Smoke was gonna die? I mean,
Well, I thought, yeah, I thought Michael B. Jordan's character in general was gonna die. Like
both the twins.
I thought everybody was gonna die. So I thought she was gonna be the final girl in this situation. But it was really surprising. I thought it was actually a better way for her to go in a sense of, she got what she asked for as far as like protecting her spirit. And she
Yeah.
got to be reunited with the baby, which we'll talk a little bit about, how we get, the details of this. But she was absolutely beautiful. And I'm not gonna lie to you, another sex scene when she was whispering in Michael B. Jordan's ear and she got
Girl.
to lick at his earlobe. I had to like clutch my chest. I was like, girl,
I was texting
yes.
my man like, what you doing? I was like, dang, why didn't we come see this together?
Girl, I started holding my own hand. I started holding my own hand in that bitch. Like,
Because when she wrote on that thing, I was like, oh,
yeah. And say your body didn't forgive me. I was like, no, the fuck it didn't. It did not either. Good Lord. But yes, the women in this film are absolutely gorgeous.
and I love how what's the right word? I loved how diverse they were in the sense of like we
Mm-hmm.
had Wumi, who was a hoodoo woman that was
Mm-hmm.
very connected to the earth, to the ground, to where they were in Mississippi and her
Mm-hmm.
ancestry. We had Pearline which was a coming of age woman for that
Mm-hmm.
time. A lot of people want to say she was, fast and promiscuous, which, she was definitely promiscuous, but is like in that era of her owning her own sexuality, like that was not something that was
Mm-hmm.
probably seen or even accepted at all. So I love that they included that. And then we had Haley, who is, this white woman that is in
Mm-hmm.
love with a black man and that wants to be involved within the black community, but she knows that she looks so different that she can't. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just thought that I loved how varying, how diverse the
Mm-hmm.
women were, and that
You
they were
know,
really intentional about like making them different.
that one fifth black was actually like real life. Like
Oh
apparently she
yeah,
is like a fifth black.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, I had no
That's
idea.
been some controversy too, where people have been feeling some type of way about yeah, her saying that she's multiracial. I saw some weird posts about how she can't say she's multiracial because her grandparents, like I think her grandfather is mixed with black and Asian, and people are like, she can't say she's multiracial. I was like, why
What
is
would
it this
people
deep?
like her to say she is?
She has black ancestry, but she's not
Okay.
multiracial. She's a white woman, which
I
I
don't
mean,
I don't know that I'm gatekeeping blackness at this point. Like if you claim it, I'm not saying you should go out here and get Fulani braids and shit like that. Like relax. But if it's something that is in your ancestry, and maybe this is my own thing because I am mixed, like, but I feel like if you want to own parts of yourself, own parts of yourself. I'm not gatekeeping it at this point.
yeah, no, I don't think like first of all, if one is in your blood and you're able
Mm.
to like first of all, we could see it a little bit. I thought they was gonna say she was Italian in the film. I was like, she's something.
Yeah.
She is Italian, but
Hmm.
she said she was black or whatever. But I think it's just like if we have people that can one accept that they are mixed with black, even though they are white presenting
Mm-hmm.
and respected. Those are the
Mm-hmm.
type of allies we want. Like, why are we saying that you're not invited to the cookout because you look white? Like, she can't help that. She can't help
She
any
is
of that.
passing, but I do think like when I'm talking about like gatekeeping, like again, there's boundaries to what comes with the privilege of passing. Cool, respectfully. If the girl's black, like she has black in her and she wants to, and she didn't even say like, I'm part black. She was like, I got a fifth of black in me based on this, like tracing her ancestry. Cool, you got it. I mean, like don't go around throwing the N-word around because because of that, but like also like you're allowed to say that. All she did was say it. All she did was acknowledge it. That's what I mean. Like I'm not trying to clock that girl and whatever she got to say about herself.
Yeah, definitely not. And the last thing I'll say about Haley is that I have respected, I watched a few interviews where it was brought up about her ancestry or whatever. And I really loved when she said in an interview that she was like, she just wanted her castmates to understand that she doesn't understand, but she's trying to understand. And she wants them to feel comfortable around her in her learning this black cultural experience. And I was like, I respect that.
Hmm.
Like,
Same.
that's all you can ask for. So yes, the sex scenes. Do we want to talk about her sex scene though? Because that, oh my goodness,
So I want to talk about Haley's mouth. Let's talk about Mary's mouth. Haley is Mary, if you can't remember or keep up with the characters. So so Mary had a foul mouth. And
girl.
we've talked about this a couple times on the pod about men writing like female characters and women writing like male characters. Part of me felt like you could tell a man wrote those because when she talked about him stealing her pussy, I was like, excuse me, what? Who talks like that? You dirty girl. You're
Yeah,
a dirty girl.
she was a little she was very feisty from the beginning, and
Mm-hmm.
I related because we're feisty women. We cuss a
We
lot
are. Mm-hmm.
and we talk shit in the bedroom sometimes. So it's like,
Oh, I think I'm more appreciating her dirty mouth. Like the way they wrote her, like I know we typically talk about like men writing female characters, but like if that's how you're gonna write them, it's not the worst thing in the world because she did have a filthy mouth. She was talking shit to everybody. She was talking shit to even when they were in the juke joint and basically he was talking about, I don't know, he was talking about getting somebody to beat her ass and she was like, I'll beat everybody in here or something. I was like, girl, this woman is moving, she's moving like she got a fifth black in her. So I'll take it. She was a very feisty, and I wonder if Coogs had some intentionality behind writing the white woman as like the feisty, angry woman instead of the black woman as that. Because the black women were very peaceful. They were very like sensual, but
very
they were
supportive.
nurturing.
Yes.
Yeah, they were more docile. And I think there was something intentional about writing a white woman as like the angry, feisty, kind of like rambunctious woman.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I will say that sex scene with them and the spitting in the mouth,
So, okay. So I don't,
that grossed me out. I mean, I know that's some stuff that people do
yeah.
because I was getting heated. I was like, ooh, when she was like he when she started drooling and
Yeah, I
he
didn't
was
like
like, you're drooling. She was like, you want some? And he was like, yeah. I was like,
and then
oh,
laid back to receive it. Now,
oh.
do I was trying to Google it. Do we know if she actually spit in his mouth?
I don't know.
Nobody.
Nobody knows. And no one's asked the question. I haven't seen any interviewer ask that
I haven't,
question.
and part of me is like, I get why because it's a little saucy, but I do think okay. I want to give you my response to that scene. So I was sitting there. And I was like, finally, all the sexual tension been building up between these two characters. I'm finally like happy to see it play out. And then when the drool happened, I was kind of like, the drool disgusted me, like high key. I was like, ew, wipe your mouth, girl. Like you don't, like, yeah, ugh. And it was thick. I was just like, eh. But then when she asked if he wanted some, and I knew she was about to spit in his mouth on some Missy Elliott shit, I was like, I'm not a fan of spit in many ways. Like it actually takes the joy out of kissing sometimes with me. But I kind of started to rethink my position when I saw that. It was the only time I've ever rethought my position on spit. And I was like, you know what? There's something really powerful about her doing that. That I was kind of like with my power kink, I was just like, I mean, one time for the one time isn't the worst time.
Look, to each his own. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't for everybody, the spitting
It's
scene.
definitely not for everybody, but I was like, I appreciate them taking the risk and going full throttle because it shows you the type of couple they are, the type of
Hmm.
sex they are having. So I was
But
just like, okay.
But that was the point, right? When we're talking about diversity, there's a lot of diversity in this film. This was diversity of sexual expression too, right? When we think about Perline's sex scene with Sammy, it was very woman-centered. It decentered Sammy completely. He was like, "You ain't got to wash up. I just want to eat it. I just want to taste it." We don't even know if he hit after that. They came out, and as far as we know, she got her pussy ate, and that was it. When you think about the sensuality that was Woomy and Michael B. Jordan or Smoke,
Hmm.
Annie and Smoke, it was very much like this is connection. Like they done
Yeah,
been through
love
some
making.
shit together.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like slow and this is for the lovers. And then you get to Mary in that, and this is for the freaks. This is for the people that get off on, like the feistiness and the different ways that we like fuck each other and talking shit to each other and just being nasty. So there was something for everybody. I don't care what kind of sex scene you want. There was something for everybody in there.
No, I agree. I agree fully. So let's talk a little bit about the visuals and how aesthetically pleasing the film
Hmm.
was. And I just thought that the black people looked so amazing on screen. There was a warmth to their skin. There was a warmth to everything. And I was reading that the cinematographer Autumn, she did like a golden hue throughout
Mm,
the filmmaking, and they actually would put up like lanterns and like light, like string lights, to help assist with like not help assist them not to always have big lighting setups because they
mm,
also wanted the sets to feel like actual locations and rooms and stuff like that. So they didn't have a lot of lighting like set up on the sets. So a lot of
good.
it was them like putting up things overhead. It was a lot of overhead lighting, which I
Hmm.
think can be tricky because that's when it casts like shadows and like it doesn't look as appealing. Like, you could be in your own crib and you're trying to take a photo and you're like, oh, this overhead light, I got shadows under my eyes and
Yep.
all types of stuff. So I think the fact that they were able to accomplish that and still allow the black people to look so like good
Hmm.
on the screen, it kind of reminded me of like how people talked about Insecure and how that lighting looked, of just how like warm we looked, like we looked like we were healthy.
I think,
So
yeah, yeah, because you look at some of those photos from like the early 2000s, 90s, and it's like, ooh, they did us dirty. But I think it takes people of color to know people of color, right?
for
So
sure.
I think when you have that many diverse people on set, you understand exactly the way light bounces off of like melanated skin. So again, diversity, y'all. Do we know where this film was shot, actually?
It was shot in Louisiana.
Oh, it would be shot in Louisiana because the actual setting was beautiful. It gave like George Washington vibes. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it was like this film that takes place in the South, and they just got everything right about what that actually looks like.
Mm.
Um, so we can actually get into the movie since we're already here and talk about the movie itself. And one of the things I feel like is maybe under discussed, I do want to name, there's been a lot of think pieces about this movie. And one of the things that I feel like I really would like to do, or like at least hone in on, is focusing on the story itself. I feel like everybody's producing really great knowledge about the Easter eggs and things that Cougs might have left for us in like the
Hmm.
symbolism. But I feel like there's also at bare bones some really great writing here. And when I think about like even the title of Sinners, which is something I feel like we're also not really kind of addressing in these think pieces, um, just thinking about the characters and how they like the title reflects all of them. Even as we were talking about those sex scenes, it's like Perline and Mary were married. So it's like they're adulterers. There's a lot of
Hmm.
lust in this film. When you think about Cornbread was supposed to be guarding the door of the juke joint, and he was kind of slacking. It was embodying like sloth behavior. Slim Delta being a wino and just having like all, this addiction. And I think that was the reason why Slim Delta even switched to do the juke joint that night anyways. Slim Delta had a whole secure job at a whole other juke
Hmm.
joint, getting what, $20 and all the like wine he could drink or
Yeah,
all the
that
alcohol he
corn
could drink.
wine.
Yeah. And basically, Stack and Smoke had offered him $40 in Irish, which is really important, beer and Italian wine, which are also
Hmm.
very important to the story, but we'll talk about that later. So it's like he had, gluttony, greed, whichever one you want to think about. And when I was thinking about how all of them embody sin, because, Annie was kind of portrayed as this pure love, this pure
Hmm.
essence of what that means. But I was trying to think of sin as a more broad understanding. And I was thinking about how it's impressed in individuals, because you're talking about the Jim Crow South, a bunch of people of color. Um, all of them were capable of being tempted by power. And that's where the evil is, right? That's the vampires and what they, damn it.
What would just take a sip. We went a really long time without saying it.
We did, but now we're here and I anticipate us drinking a lot more. But when you're thinking about the evil that is the vampires, because they're an embodiment of evil. And, to me, that's it's just the white devil all over. Damn
It's
it.
okay, just keep going, girl.
Okay. But other people, especially people with no power, could seem envious of the power of the undead bloodsuckers. And they might want the pride that comes with being able to exist the way that the undead bloodsuckers exist. So when I think about that, it kind of ties into this overarching theme of the movie, which is freedom and what that actually looks like and raises questions around that. But I was thinking about sinners and like what we would do to be free, And I think anybody that's in a marginalized identity would do a lot for freedom. And
Hmm.
even that encompasses no matter how good-hearted you are, when you're presented with a certain level of power and the ability to walk with your head up, I think you're willing to readjust your morals, is how I would think about it.
Yeah. No, that's a great breakdown, and it actually reminds me of um the conversation around freedom, what freedom looked like for um the undead bloodsuckers, what freedom looked like for them, and how he was trying to explain freedom and this community that we could
Hmm.
have all together versus what you just said of like what people will do for freedom, which is like they'll sin to a certain extent, but
Hmm.
they're not willingly going to give their soul or like do these certain things
Hmm.
to hop onto this um vampire
Bucket.
wagon. Yeah, that
Hmm.
sounds like I'm just gonna say it this time.
Yep. But yeah, and I think that's where the temptation comes from. Like sin, like is like a lot of the blues culture was kind of rooted in temptation. And I think when we're
Hmm.
thinking about the title sinners and the juke joint culture and what blues meant at that time, as far as how intertwined it was with the devil, um, and I guess we'll talk about like the legend behind it and hopefully an aspect of where Coogs got his inspiration from for this story. But yeah, I just think there was a lot of temptation in the movie, and I think that there are a lot of people that would bend their morals to be free.
For sure, for sure. So that brings a really good point about the big question of like a lot of people have been talking about it as so why are the actual vampires Irish? And
Hmm.
what is the cultural significance? Like, why did Ryan Coogler specifically want them to be Irish? There was the Irish beer, like, there are so many references to Ireland. There,
Okay.
even the line dancing. All there are so
Yeah.
many references to them being from Ireland,
Hmm.
and um, so yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. So I thought there was a lot of like, like I guess at the time, and I don't want to get the history and culture wrong because it's not an identity that I identify with, but hearing all the different stories around like the Irish potato famine and Catholic guilt, colonial anxiety, all these different things that were coming up, it sounds like there was a mutual understanding of oppression between the Irish and people of color. And I'm
Yes.
not trying to do that whole thing where we're like, oh, well, oppression Olympics, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
What
no,
I'm
but
just,
it is known that at that
yes.
time, certain foreigners like the Irish and the Italian were not seen as white passing in that time compared to how they are
Hmm.
seen now, which they're more accepted by the white society.
Yes, and even how Remick, the white leader, tries to get into the juke joint and start to, gather more souls and things like that. Even the way he's trying to tempt them to the other side, to the evil,
Mm-hmm.
is is kind of like, I'm not threatening you with my power. I want to share it with you. Like,
Yeah.
this is a moment of solidarity. I want to bring you and show you what freedom looks like. I want to bring you and show you what this type of power looks like. So he was trying to connect with them. Even doing it through blues was really important because he was taking something that he knew they kind of had in common as far as like music. And there's an overarching theme about how music is this unifying concept. It bridges through time, it bridges generations, it bridges cultures, it bridges races. Like, it is this bridge to like multiple places and multiple people and multiple identities. And he even uses that to try to connect with them and say, hey, look, we're the same. We're doing the same thing. He plays banjo, they play guitar, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's out there doing, like, it's more bluegrass to me than it is blues. But be it beyond me to argue semantics. I don't know that, I'm not a professional. But it did seem more bluegrass what they were doing. Like, when you think about "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," it felt
Yeah,
more
yeah,
of
for
that.
sure. But it's that saying of the enemy of my enemy is my
Is my
friend.
friend.
And
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, that could be true if you still weren't holding technically white power and like you at the end of the day, you still have a certain power over us that we will never have, regardless of if we join you or if we keep fighting against these white men that we've been fighting against, the Ku Klux and all these other racist people.
So I will say, Remick, when he tries to create that or bridge that gap of solidarity, he
Mm-hmm.
kind of uses the KKK. Like, when you're talking about the enemy of my enemy is my friend, he brings that up. He says, look, y'all was never pretty much making it out of here regardless,
Yep.
because the KKK is coming back in the morning. I already know what they're up to. They're coming back in the morning. They're going to kill everybody and just take the mill back. And apparently that was the scam, was they
Yeah.
would sell it to people and then kill them and then have it and just keep selling it and making money, which, you know, what a scammer. But Remick tries to use that to like say, hey, we're on the same side, bro. Like, you don't have to be scared of me. I'm giving you information you wouldn't even be privy to. And
Yep.
Coogs does this thing where he breaks this cliche of white equaling evil. They're not like evil because they're white, they're evil because of the power that they hold. Like, in this
Yes.
situation, and black doesn't necessarily equal good. Like, he's not doing that because obviously the people in the juke joint are obviously sinners in different ways and things like that. So it's almost like we talked about, like that rainbow coalition of like the oppressed are good and the oppressor is evil. So I thought that was a really interesting way that he shifted power in this movie that I hadn't really seen.
Oh, you getting money.
Mm.
That hand's itching. But yes,
I
I
hope so.
totally agree with you. And I think I thought your breakdown was great. You always bring such good insight. That's why I love talking to you.
Well, that's the thing, is I love talking about the story and I love all the think pieces and things like that that are happening and the knowledge that's being shared. And I love when a movie provokes critical thinking this way. It's just
Hmm.
that I also don't want people to forget Coogs has some really good writing just as a writer. And maybe it's because I love writing that, that's the part that I'm most excited about. But I love fully developed characters. I love good plot structure. Um I love intentionality in writing, and I just think he had a well thought out story here that also deserves some praise as well.
Yeah,
So,
and you actually mentioned this folklore story
oh
that I would
yeah.
love for you to talk a little bit more about because it sounded so interesting.
So, okay, yeah. So at the beginning of the movie, it opens up with a legend, and this is where we talk about Sammy and why the bloodsuckers wanted him specifically,
Hmm.
because music blurs the line between life and death.
Yeah.
And it's a power that has healing properties. We've seen it. And then it also can attract evil.
Yes.
So allegedly, as the legend goes, Robert Johnson was a blues musician who was talented, but maybe still making a name for himself in the Delta. So
Mm.
he had a really unique way of playing that people acknowledge, but he still didn't have like the recognition he probably deserved. And what ended up happening was he disappeared for like a year and basically came back and became like the father of modern blues. So legend has it that he went down to the crossroads in the Delta And the devil was waiting there, a big black man with a guitar, and he tuned it up for him and gave him that guitar in exchange for his soul. What the conversation looked like, not sure, but allegedly, the moment he took that guitar, the devil got his soul. And I think that's where, and this is a great segue into that montage, right? Where the scene that everybody talks about when
Mm-hmm.
Sammy is playing his ass off and everybody's dancing, and the montage is the past, the present, the future, because they got twerking in the 19, 30s Jim Crow South. So it's like they're bringing in, he summons ancestors of generation across generations. So it's people from the past. They've got African drums playing, and Ludwig does a great job of layering all this music over each other to make a really cohesive sound, including the blues. And Remick wants that. So when we're talking about power and what the bloodsuckers actually want with Sammy, one of those things is the ability to blur the lines between life and death. It's this idea that they can summon, like they can use music to summon, they can use music to attract, they can use music to manipulate, like they can use music to get to more people
Mm-hmm.
regardless of present, past, or future. And I thought that was a really interesting way to tie the actual movie back to this legend and what, Robert Johnson might have sold a soul for and what it actually looks like in practice. I don't know.
Yeah, no, no. I thought that was so interesting. I mean, we hear these stories all the time. I mean, there's obviously from the Bible, the devil was, what was he, the god of music? And
Oh, I didn't know that.
oh, yeah, yeah. Lucifer is like the god of music. And so we already know how powerful music is and how
Hmm.
controlling it can be. And that's another thing that we see in the music industry. And people are always talking about people selling their souls for power and the Illuminati and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So this isn't
Hmm.
just like something that's happened within the last few decades. Like this has been going on for centuries and years because you said music is so influential and can
Hmm.
really change people's spirits and souls.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I appreciated that folklore because I feel like
Oh, I
there's
love
truth. I
folklore.
was about to say I feel like there's always some truth in folklore.
But the only reason I even went looking for it is because I feel like when I was talking to people, maybe they hadn't heard it, but like the song "The Devil Went Down to Georgia," he was looking for
Yeah.
some souls to steal, and basically he makes a deal with a fiddler that if he plays the fiddle better than him, then he gets a soul. So there's like this, and it's constantly this connection to some form of blues, whether it's bluegrass, whatever, that the devil shows up. And I think there's something to be said about the power of blues, that's when the devil wants to show up. That's when people start associating with the devil because people can feel the power in blues music. You can feel the power in Sammy's voice, especially when he does that like long wail at the end
Oh
and it
my
just
God.
lets it ring
Yeah.
off. And it's like there's a lot of power in that. And I can imagine a sound like that would be able to travel through time and space in a way that's different than I'm capable of doing as a physical like entity. So yeah, I love the folklore behind it. I love that they still kind of they show more than just the evil of blues. They show the good in it, a lot of evil, but they also talk about the good and the healing properties and the fact that Sammy is called Preacher Boy because he started in the church, which is I think
Yeah,
where a lot of blues singers started. Isn't
for
that?
sure. And that's why blues was so controversial back then because a lot of people, it was just gospel music, it was just church music. And then blues came, and it's just like any other new genre of music that comes, rap music, rock music, like it's
Mm-hmm.
always seen as something dirty and
Mm-hmm.
evil because it's so different and because it is like obviously loosening people up in ways that they weren't loose before. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, blues was very controversial at that time for sure.
One of the things that I feel like, also talking about good and evil, one of the things I felt like people were saying was like, why didn't the Native Americans help the Black people? And I do want to say, you ain't got to tell us but one time something.
Yeah, I wouldn't have helped them either. First of
And I
all, they
always,
didn't know. First of all, how was the Native Americans known that
yeah.
they went to the black juke joint?
So I'll say this. They talked about how the bloodsuckers even got to the juke joint and why Cougs thought it was important to unveil and break down the juke joint so you could see through it and see Sammy playing,
Yeah.
because he did want to talk about, how exactly blues attracts evil. He wanted to like actually show that process.
Hmm.
So that's why Remick could see straight through it, because he was just hearing sound. He didn't even need to see inside. Like he could just see it
Yeah.
based off the vibes. But yeah, so they're not responsible for the vampires. Damn it. They're not responsible for the bloodsuckers finding their way to Sammy in the juke joint and everybody inside. The Native Americans showed up when they were supposed to show up. The Native Americans pulled up on the white people and was like, hey, there's a really bad person inside. It'll be great if you can hand him over to us. It's in everybody's best interest if you hand whoever's inside there over to us. Because he was fucked up by the Native Americans. They was fucking him
Well,
up.
no, the first, like, the thing I didn't put together, even though I knew it was a vampire movie, I still didn't even put together that his skin was burning when
Mm-hmm.
we first saw him. So I was like,
Yep.
oh my God, the attention to detail, because
Mm-hmm.
it was like, where the fuck did he come from that he's
Yep.
burning and you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
They
yeah.
were they were fucking him up. So he escapes or whatever. And they try their best, but the Native Americans, they was getting back before sundown regardless. They pretty
Hmm.
much said that. They was like, look, we got like 2 more minutes to try to convince these people. After that, we're out. Like then they
And
start
I don't
like
even know.
planning.
First of all, I don't even know how they protecting they land, but they got some type
Oh,
of
we
spells
always
and
got away.
rituals. I was about to say they got some type of spells and rituals, because you would think that it wouldn't matter after it got dark, but they were like, "Nah, we need
Hmm.
to get back to our land.
Yep.
We not
Yep.
we not
And
fucking
there's
with these vampires."
But when people talk about like Indian burial grounds and stuff like that, and when you talk about protected land and land, y'all should be doing land acknowledgments because they can hear you. So it's like when you're talking about like what it means to be on sacred land, a lot of like tribes do find like that's why they go so hard for it. That's why they go so hard to protect it, and that's why they go so hard to own the spaces or own the land that they occupy. Like it's a big deal,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that this particular tribe, considering they was hunting vampires, had some type of protection on their land, which is why they need to get back to it. So everybody that's like, why they didn't come out, like it's also like the natives were doing what they could when they could, but they were not overextending themselves. And I don't
Yeah.
think they needed to overextend themselves in this situation. They did their best and then they went home. So while we're talking about like natives, apparently there is with a particular tribe, I don't want to misquote it, but a particular tribe has a strong relationship with the Irish in a sense of even though the Irish potato famine had occurred 16 years after like this tribe walked the Trail of Tears, and people were still kind of recovering from that and all the
Yeah.
oppression and everything that came with that. They basically still donated hundreds of dollars to support the famine relief in Ireland at the time because they knew what it meant to be like hungry and
Who's
impoverished.
they? The Native Americans?
Yeah, they actually donated to the Irish potato famine to help them because they understood what it meant to be like displaced.
Interesting.
Hmm. And
Wow.
then,
I mean, not to be ignorant, but
mhm.
okay, so at this time they had money, like, because I'm
It
assuming
was
that
little.
they don't use money. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? That might be an ignorance of mine, but I'm
No.
assuming within their own tribes and stuff, they're not using money. It's more of like a barter system. But you're saying that they had money to donate to
Hmm.
the Irish.
I think they did have currency. So when we're talking about like what they were able to donate, they took up a donation in order to support the Irish potato famine, and it was if you put it in today's money, it was about $5,000 in today's money. And this is coming
So
specifically
what's that, like
from
100,000?
no, it's 5,000. That's the equivalent of what they were able to
Oh,
donate
in
at the time.
today's, okay,
Yeah,
money was 5,000. I thought you were
that's
saying
how
it's
little
five
they
thousand back
had.
then. But that's
Mm-mm.
5,000 still isn't a little bit of money now. Like, for any person
Hmm.
to donate 5,000, that's like we're dedicated to the movement.
Yeah, like they have this history with the Irish. I think the Irish also put up a sculpture in acknowledgement of the friendship between the natives and the Irish in what was it, 2024 recently. And basically, when the coronavirus had happened, the natives were hit really hard, and Ireland ended up sending like a large donation to kind of pay back some of the kindness they were shown by natives. And I think it's different tribes that were involved in this, but there's just been kind of a history between native people and the Irish and kind of this kind of mutual understanding of support and things like that, which I thought was really interesting
Oh,
to
that's so
name.
nice. I love
I said
that.
the same thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes, my
very
lumpy
beautiful.
sister. You better educate us.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's all stuff I'm learning as well as we go through this, but I think that's why that speaks to Coog's writing and the intentionality behind it, even including certain characters, so that you do kind of try to make connections, even where there might not be. You start researching things and getting into these rabbit holes that teach you something that might not even have been in the movie. Like maybe that wasn't his intentionality of putting
Hmm.
natives being the hunters of like, the Irish or whatever, or there being some type of relationship, which is why the natives were able to, get Rimic under control in some to some degree. But yeah, like you start digging for certain things, and it's like the more you dig with this movie, the more shit just starts popping up at you.
That's
So
so true. And that's a great transition into the relationship between Black Americans and Chinese Americans. Well,
hmm
the Chinese that were
in the Delta.
brought to the Delta and later became Americans. And so I was watching a video from AJ, was that Al Jazeera? Just Jazeera? Al Jazeera?
Man.
Okay. So, anyways, so I was watching a video that broke down how Chinese people came to the Delta, Mississippi, and they were actually brought to the Americas, North America, after slavery was banned and used as a cheaper labor force because
hmm
now, obviously you can't use Black people within slavery, but they could use these Chinese people who at the time were cheap. They were technically voiceless and they had no political ties or power. So Chinese people started being used in that way. But the Chinese ain't for that. So they eventually
hmm
started building and owning grocery stores, and that is one of the examples that you see in the film, where it's literally two Chinese stores, two stores
hmm
that are owned by the Chinese, one for Black people on one side of the street and one for white people on the other side of the street. And this is actually true. The grocery store was called Ming Sang Grocery, and they became the middle ground and the helpers to Black people when Black people were not able to shop at white
hmm
establishments. So the Chinese played a really important part in Black history and American history, allowing us to get the resources and the help that we needed, giving us credit to buy food and things like that when we didn't
hmm
have the money. So you see that, and you see that Ryan Coogler did an amazing job of looking up his history, because
hmm
yeah, because the Chinese were a big part of the Delta, Mississippi, which I mean, I didn't know. I knew the Chinese were here, but I didn't know they were here in that capacity.
Girl, I mean, since we're doing our own little think piece segment right now, like that also ties into like that concept of like the wooden nickels and like who was able to shop
Mm-hmm.
where and buy what and things like that. So one of the things that was a point of contention between Smoke and Stack in the movie was
Yep.
the accepting of wooden nickels at the juke joint. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought this was fascinating. So I'm not going to lie to you. This was something maybe I was a little unfamiliar with myself, but apparently there was something called like a plantation script. And they were given out as a currency specifically for like Black sharecroppers. And it could only be used at like the plantation commissary. And they were like mad inflated prices and stuff like that. So
Crazy.
they,
Another way
girl,
for them to control us. How you gonna give us fake money?
but that, yeah, exactly. But that was the thing. Is like they made it impossible for like people to save real money and leave
Mm-hmm.
the plantation. So they were kind of stuck in this cycle of poverty because they the white devil's been at work for quite a long time. And
And
there's even mhm,
sorry, this just reminds me, like, people think that this is like slavery really ended 200 years ago. Like, this is very relevant. Like, slavery in Mississippi, I think, was banned in 1960. Like, people were still working on plantations, 60 years ago. Like, this isn't even a
crazy.
generation apart. Like, your grandparents, some of
hmm
your parents were working on these plantations. And so, anyways, continue, because I'm about to get a whole nother topic.
No, I mean it's fine because I mean you have two sides of, I guess, represented in Smoke and Stack here because there's a conversation about those wooden nickels and like I think Smoke wants to create more of an establishment, a respectable quote in quotations establishment because it accepts real money and they're able to profit real money. And he has a real concern because a lot of the people, a lot of the black people, a lot of the people that are embedded in juke joint and blues culture have wood nickels. And I mean,
Hmm.
obviously there's no surprise there. But Smoke, I mean, Stack is also like, bro, this is their freedom. Like this is the place where they can relax. They've been working all week. Like this is all they have. Who are we not to accept this? And he kind of continues to accept the wood nickels. Now I think that does bleed into their profit, but I thought it was a really interesting um kind of a dual perspective of like pull yourself up by the bootstraps versus like, bro, people are doing the best they can with what they got, and we should honor that too.
Yeah, I agree. And just to correct that, slavery, Mississippi officially abolished slavery with the 13th Amendment on February 7th of 2013. Not even 15 years ago.
That's
You know what I'm
sketchy.
saying? Like people have really like been like these deep southern states are really still holding people back. And it's
That's
just
the
like,
whole reason we got Juneteenth, because they let the people in Texas believe that slavery was
yes,
still going on until
yes.
Juneteenth happened. I think they've done a really good job of playing with different dynamics in this film. But I think one of the things we talked about how blues was this kind of overarching theme throughout the movie in the power of music. I think Ludwig took that personally. And when I tell you, like, I was not familiar with his game. Like I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
a lot of us didn't
Um,
know.
but if you were going to have somebody produce a score like this, I guess it would be somebody named Ludwig.
Exactly.
So here we are. So yeah, I mean, I think you had told me, like you read somewhere that like he basically created a character out of the music. And I think even when you went to go see it and you were telling me about it, you were like, the movie is the movie because of the music.
For
And I thought that
sure.
was a really interesting perspective too.
Yeah, like this music, I mean, this movie would not, I think, get the recognition that it's getting if the music was not to the scale that it was.
Hmm.
And I just love, there's like, I did, if you follow our TikTok, you'll see that I did a breakdown of some of the most interesting facts that I found out about the music. And I can talk about some of them here. But I think the fact that one, Ludwig he's a musical genius. Like Ryan
Hmm.
Coogler, I saw an interview where Ryan Coogler was basically talking about how when they met in college through mutual
Hmm.
friends, Ludwig was doing this then. Mind you, Ludwig's father is a blues guitarist. So
Hmm.
it's like I just feel like there are so many like God winks is something I heard from Tyler Perry say once, where it's like, you know, things just align, where it's just like meant
Hmm.
to be. I think there are so many like God winks within the making of this film for it to be as exceptional as it was. And I think the fact that freaking Ludwig's father is a blues guitarist is
Hmm.
one of those things. So Ludwig already had a major background in music. His wife was also a music supervisor on this project, and she is a violinist, I believe. So they both are within musical backgrounds and families.
Hmm.
And so Ludwig took time to go to Memphis, study blues a little bit deeper. Um, and him and his wife came up with these musical pieces. I believe it was 28 of them they needed for this film, musical moments. And they did it within a month, I believe he said. He was like, even though they had been sending Ryan Coogler stuff for months, ever since
Hmm.
he basically talked about the project, but when it came down to actually putting the stuff together, they had a month before they actually started shooting the film to get the musical pieces together. And I think that in itself is just like phenomenal. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, so much went into like making this music the way it was.
Hmm.
Like Miles Canton didn't even know how to play guitar. Like he spent 3 months learning how to play guitar. Um,
And the guitar they actually used, and don't get me lying to you about what it's
mhm,
called, but Ludwig actually went out and found three of that guitar, which actually came from the time around the time that the movie's filmed. So he actually did
literally.
that attention to detail to make sure the instrument that Miles is carrying around in the film is actually of that time period, I think.
Yeah, and all of the actual blues music that's played with the
Hmm.
guitar is played with that same guitar.
And
So,
they They said
Hmm.
he released the soundtrack actually under, was it Sony Music? He actually released it under a music group of some sort instead of like, you know how they just release like this is the soundtrack to Sinners or something like that. But there's
Yeah.
apparently an interesting way that he released the soundtrack. Because when you go on Apple Music, there is two versions of it. And I'm not quite
Oh,
understanding why
okay.
there's two versions of the Sinner soundtrack. There's a lot that goes into, explaining that. And I don't know every detail, but I think it's worth looking into and looking at the difference between the two soundtracks and why one is under
Okay.
one and one is the other under the other.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. It might honestly do a lot with ownership because
Mm,
Ludwin is actually a music producer and I think he has a music
that would make
company of his
sense.
own.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
So
that would make sense if he wants to own the music, because that montage sound. You want to know what? Everybody talks about the, what is it, the magic we make or something like that, whatever the name of that song is, where he does the overlay of so many different sounds.
hmm.
My favorite song on the soundtrack is actually Last Time. It's just
Yeah. I
it's
like
a
that song
very
too.
it's a beautiful song, and that's the one I find myself listening to the
Is
most.
that the James Blake one?
I don't actually remember, don't get me lying to you about who it was,
Oh, okay.
but it was like it's the last time, it's the wrong time, and the right time. This is our time. I was like, wow, what a beautiful song. It's just I think that's one of the best songs to me on the track, but I can respect what went into layering as a person who loves production, which is why, we can't talk about my favorite rapper or producer. But as a person who's in love with like production of sound, like I'll sacrifice lyrics for the sake of production. Hearing him layer sounds in that way and still make it a beat, like this wasn't just like
Yes. Oh my
throwing sounds
goodness.
together. This was finding sounds that complemented one another at the right time and building the sound out. And I thought, man, I'm not a professional, but that was some professional shit. Okay.
That was once in a
Like,
lifetime type shit. Everybody
yeah.
can't do what Ludwig is doing.
But this also speaks to Coog's ability to see the potential in the people around him. He
For
saw like
sure.
him and his wife saw the potential in each other. He sees the potential in Michael B. Jordan and seems to be able to, one of the few directors that's able to really bring that out of Michael B. Jordan in a way that you just kind of don't see him with other people.
Oh yeah, that actually reminds me of what I was going to say about him, about Ryan Coogler meeting Ludwig in college, is
Hmm.
that Ludwig at the time, I think they had one incident where Ludwig was actually creating a score to a film live, like he was playing whatever
Hmm.
notes into the editing software while the film was rolling, which is, and to me is that's
You
wild.
know
Like it's not like he
what?
created it, the song, and then placed it into it later. He's like doing
Hmm.
it live. So Ryan said that he's always been kind of like amazed with Ludwig and like how he creates music. And I don't think many people know this, but Ryan has never used like not synthetic, but like um what is the word?
Artificial?
Pre-made music for his,
Oh,
like all of his music for his movies ever since college, since film school, have been original like pieces and soundtracks. Like
that
he's
makes
never
sense.
just, yeah. And I thought that was really cool, and I think that's a really cool lesson for filmmakers. It's like, because that's kind of what we go to. It's like we make a project and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm not a sound music, like I'm not a composer, like I'm, how am I
Hmm.
going to add music to my film? And it's like, no, Ryan Coogler actually took the time out to learn how to mix music, learn how to
Hmm.
mix audio and sound so that he can have original music for his projects. And then he also found the right people that can do it as well.
Yeah, man, Cougs is a savant. I feel like Ludwig is a savant. Like you just get a couple of people that are just exceptionally talented together, and you create something like this movie that has everybody, I don't know, up in arms, talking constantly, sleeping, dreaming about it. If you're me,
Yeah.
so
But I do want to talk about Delroy Lindo real quick because
oh
one of the
please,
other interesting things I found out when it came to the music was that Delroy basically learned how to play the harmonica on the spot. And
of course he did.
that scene that we see him the first time that he meets, or the first time we're introduced to him, that train scene where Smoke comes up to him with Miles, is like that scene in itself. I believe they have Bobby Rush was the famous harmonica and like blues musician. They actually have him there on scene,
Oh wow.
on set, but it's like you can't see him. Like he's like real low playing the harmonica,
Mm.
and Delroy is like watching him, and they're going back and forth between takes and having conversations, and he's learning how to play the harmonica in real time. And I think that is just a testament to how amazing of an actor Delroy Lindo is. And for me, he was like, he's hands down the best actor
Hmm.
on in the film, like on the screen. Like
Yeah.
he brought a certain groundness to this film that I don't think it would have had if he wasn't there. Like I don't know. It's like instantly when I seen him, I believed he was an old man from the
Yeah.
1930s that had been living in Mississippi his whole life. Like
But that's the beauty of good writing, right? Like Coogs was able to give each one of these characters, even to be able to take Michael B. Jordan, split him into two, and create two very different individuals in one person is a talent. And that I feel like that only comes, not only comes, but I feel like the foundation of a great performance is good writing. And I feel
yeah,
like they took what Coogs wrote down and they brought it to life in a really beautiful way. Delroy Lindo is a legend and fucking. I mean, he probably was what one of the most veteran members of the cast.
for sure. It was
Yeah,
a
I
very
thought.
young cast.
Yeah, so I feel like even for him to bring that, I mean, Cornbread was obviously because we've seen him in what
Yeah,
Life.
Cornbread's been around for a while, but outside
Yeah,
of him, like the cast was actually very young.
yep.
Like
Mm-hmm.
even Wumi, like obviously she's probably been acting for a while, but we haven't
Mm-hmm.
known her in this light, for a minute. Haley Steinfeld, I think, also started as a child actor, just like Michael B. Jordan. But
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to like being on the screen on like big movies like this, like obviously
Mm-hmm.
Delroy,
Yeah,
has
yeah.
been doing it.
And again, Coogs is very intentional about the people he chooses to work with, and what a great addition. Like, even thinking about the chemistry he had with the other characters. Like, I don't know. They did a great job with that cast, honestly. Every single person contributed something on screen. Every single person was really good at bringing their emotions out. Every single person was really great at bringing the characters to life in a way that felt like these were individual. I love that it only took place over the course of a day because you get to really hone in on the individuals, like you get to know
Mm-hmm.
them. There's a little bit more character development, I feel like, when you confine it to that, when you're not trying to drag it out and have these big scenes and
6 months
transitions.
later.
Yeah, it's like I don't need all that. Like give me the character development. Like there was a lot of what Rob taught me this word, hidden exposition, where it's like there's a lot that's shown instead of being told to you directly. And I really appreciated that in the movie, where it was
Mm-hmm.
like they showed you who they were. We saw who Mary was. We saw who Amy was when she was one of the first people we see taking the wooden coins or the wooden nickels. And even
Yep.
Smoke in that
Mm-hmm.
moment is like ugh, being bougie was like I don't know why you still letting people pay you in wooden nickels because they can't pay in anything else. So what are you gonna
Yep.
do?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you have all these beautiful performances taking place, and man, like I don't know, I can't speak enough about Coog's writing and how he was able to create an entire world out of this movie. That's my thought.
Yeah. Do you want to talk for a second about Michael B. Jordan's acting as twins?
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. When Michael B. Jordan was playing twins, he even talked about, he was really sweet about it, but he was saying that when he was on screen, or when he was in character and playing
Mm-hmm.
Smoke, he would actually act like that in real life. So he told people ahead of time, which I thought was really beautiful. He was like, don't take it personal. I'm not trying to be mean or standoffish. This is just how I get into character. And the seriousness with which he took on like these characters, I thought was a great, good acting in and of itself, like a good practice in acting. And then
Mm-hmm.
when he was Stack, he said he'd be more charismatic. He'd come to life more. He'd joke with people on set a little bit more. And he would just embody each individual twin when he was playing that twin to make sure he stayed in that space. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yep. I
I
love
thought, I,
that.
yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and I thought that really speaks to how Cougs and Michael B. Jordan work together and like how they push one another to like reach like their best potential. Because I would honestly argue that this is one of Michael B. Jordan's best performances.
I agree. And I think that Cougs always brings that out of him. And
Hmm.
we've had this conversation before where it's like anytime, anytime, ah, damn it. Sorry, I was trying to look something up on my screen about the twins. But we've had this conversation before where it's like anytime Michael B. Jordan is with Ryan Coogler, we know it's going to be a good performance because for some reason Ryan knows how to bring that out of him. And I think
Yep.
it's also because I was reading one of the articles where, you know, Michael B. Jordan was talking about how Ryan pushes him. And he actually said, Ryan said to me, what would Chadwick be doing right now?
Hmm.
And it was like he got a little emotional and he was like, that's all he needed to say. He was like,
Yep.
I'm gonna go harder. So I was like, I love that. And the fact I think it's important that because they have an actual friendship, it's like you don't want to let your friends down. Like you don't want to let the people you love down. So you're gonna go a little harder.
We also learned a little bit more about Michael B. Jordan as a person through some of the interviews that came with this movie. Like, I feel like Mumi mentioned it, Haley mentioned it. Um, Maybe Grace's character, was it Lee Jun Lee, mentioned it. But basically everyone was kind of saying Michael B. Jordan was this really positive and optimistic person. And because he didn't complain, because he didn't like, he wasn't negative about anything, because he was just like, let's just get it done, let's be positive about it, let's like get this film made and let it be the glorious thing that it's going to be. Everyone else said that kind of fed morale on set
Mm-hmm.
about, and they said that is a testament to like who just Michael B. Jordan is as a person. And that kind of fits who we might perceive him to be, but it was
Yeah.
interesting hearing them actually say that.
Yeah, I love that. That actually reminds me of a tip that I got from a director I know where he's like basically you are the energy on set. Like you have to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you are a positive energy, positive mindset. Like we're going to get this done because that really does set the mood for everybody else. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a beautiful example of what you said about Michael B. Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Something I found interesting about how they shot the twins,
Mm-hmm.
which Autumn was talking about, was basically they tried their best not to use like any like green screen and stuff like that because they
Mm-hmm.
wanted it to feel very like grounded and authentic, like these are actual twins in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So that they did a lot of split screen and they limited the use of face replacement technology. So it's like she was basically saying that Ryan or Michael B. Jordan had even more weight on his shoulders because he's now really like he doesn't have anything to fall back on. It's not like, oh, if I kind of mess this up, y'all could just fix this in post. Like, no, like we're
Mm-hmm.
shooting this as authentically as possible. So you have to be perfect in your movements and how
Mm-hmm.
you're acting and your placement, which we definitely saw in that like opening scene where they were like waiting for the KKK guy to get
Yep.
to buy the juke joint with a cigarette, then passing the joint to
Yep.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I thought they did a great job of when they were on screen or when they had the, stunt doubles, like transitioning the twins and like the
Yeah.
movement was seamless. Like I thought
It
they did
was
a
very
great
seamless.
job. Yeah.
You could not, like, I could not, I personally, being an outsider of the industry, could not tell how they edited it. Like I had no idea like how they were transitioning, especially when Smoke was holding Stack.
Oh my God.
And I was
Yes.
like, wait a minute. How? Or when they were fighting one another in the end. And
hmm
I was like, what's happening? Is there two Michael B. Jordans? Do we not know? So I
Yo,
thought that was very seamless.
so Brian, my man, it was so funny. He was like, he said Michael B. Jordan was acting because he almost got me when Stack died, or who was it? Stack died, right?
Hmm.
Oh no, it was Stack. Yes, when Stack died, he said he almost got
Hmm.
emotional and he had to remind himself. He was like, "This is just Michael B. Jordan playing Michael B.
Right.
Jordan."
Not just that, it's like there's two of them. So it's like
Yes.
even though Stack, even when he got bit at first, I was like, oh no, Stack. I think it's because Stack was more likable,
Yeah.
which is interesting because you have a more likable twin, but they're played by the same character. So that's another testament
To
to
his
Michael B. Jordan's
acting.
acting.
Yes.
It's like, yo, I like Stack more, but it's like, but it's the same person. So when he passed, I had to take a second for myself, like, no. And you
Right.
see you see how lust got him, but no. And then I was like, wait a minute, it's a whole other twin in this bitch still. Like, fuck out of here. So yeah, I thought
um,
Michael B. Jordan did a good job. I think everybody is showing up for this film in a really, really great way, honestly.
They're doing a great job. And that leads me to talking about what is the future of Ryan Coogler universe. Do you think that there will be a sequel to this?
He actually answered that question, and I was hoping I
Did
heard
he?
some. Yes, I saw an interview where basically he was like, I thought he was kind of building out a world. I feel
Hmm.
like I thought the mid. If y'all don't know, like there is a mid credit scene and an end credit scene.
Yeah.
And both of those, mm, they wrap the plot up nicely. Um, and one of the things he was saying was like, I wanted it to feel like a complete meal. Like I wanted it to feel like a whole meal. I didn't want it to feel like there was something left off the plate. So he said, I guess that's why he only paced it out over a day and created like this really tight-knit world. But Cougs was basically saying he wanted this to be a one and done type situation, but he wanted
Hmm.
it to be a complete project and a complete thing where you feel like you got full. And I think that's why that mid-credit scene kind of wrapped everything up nicely. Like there's no loose end there. We know what happens to Stack. We know what happens
Yeah.
to Mary. We know where they end up. We know what happens to Sammy. Like we see it play out, and we get to hear that closure that we might have needed about like how did you feel? Like what emotions came up for you that night and over the course of that night? How do you feel now that Smoke is no longer here? Like was it worth it? And they had that conversation and talk about how it was one of the best days of their life before like the sun went down. And I
Hmm.
think that was Coog's way of saying, like, this is the end. Like, this is the final end of this movie.
Coogler, give us what we want. Come
I
on, bruh.
know,
Like we could do a prequel, we could do a sequel, we could have a whole vampire universe in this bitch. We could get on our
girl.
blade, Cougs. Cougs.
I had heard like people like speculating that he was creating like his own universe out of it. And then when he said that, I was like, I feel like Coogs knows himself well enough to be like, I'm good. Like this is exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, because also it's like now there's another expectation put on me that now that I
Hmm.
gave y'all this amazing piece, the
Girl.
sequel might not be as good. And
But
then
not
it's like
but
we're
not just
upset.
that. I'm a person that if I do something and I get it to be exactly what I want it to be, I might not want to do that same thing again. I don't might not
Hmm.
want to commit to a world of my own creating. I might just want to commit to a moment in time or a moment in that space, but I don't want to commit to this being who I am. So now I'm a vampire bitch. So now decision making at this point. So I produced this really great project, but now it's like he almost became like the Marvel guy. He almost became like the Creed guy. Like I don't think Coogs wants to be boxed into a single project. I think he wants the creativity to explore and create and open up new worlds and bring us new stories, but he can't do that if he's focused on building out a world out of one story, you know? So I
Yes.
respected his decision,
You better know
even though
Cougs. You better know your friend Cougs.
apparently we're besties. But I like to imagine that like, you know, I don't think he does anything he doesn't want to do. And we can
Yeah.
see that in like he's just like it's quality over quantity with him. He's not just putting out shit to put it out and say he has a job. Like I'm
Hmm.
sure, he be working, but I don't think Cougs does anything he doesn't want to do. And I think with this project, he did exactly what he wanted to do, and he did it so exactly that there's nothing left to do with it.
Agreed. Well said. Yeah, you're exactly right. Ryan Coogler did what he wanted to do. And I think another thing that he definitely wanted to do was to make sure that Sinners was his. And I'm talking about
Hmm.
that Warner Brothers power move and deal that he made. And I think it's really important for people to know that Ryan
Hmm.
Coogler isn't the first filmmaker to make a deal like
Hmm.
this. I think he didn't want to say this, but I'll say it. The only reason that it was as big as it is because he's a black man making these moves in
Hmm.
Hollywood. And so, if you don't know about the deal, basically, Ryan Coogler made a deal with Warner Brothers that after 25 years, he would have full ownership of Sinners. Another part of the deal is basically that he's able to make profits off of the film before it is fully recouped to the studio. So normally, I believe it's where like those first few weeks or those first
Hmm.
few months or whatever, those several millions that are
Hmm.
made at the box office goes right back to the studio because obviously they put in 150 million or whatever the price is to get this
Hmm.
project made. But Cougs did his deal, so he's actually able to make some money back before all of that money is recouped. And we know that the money is going to be recouped. I think the first weekend they made, what was it?
They made back like
61 million.
65, yeah, 65% of their original budget in 48 hours.
Yeah, so we know that he's already paid the studio back what is
Hmm.
owed. Um, but I think the big conversation is because people are scared that this is going to be an industry standard for a lot of filmmakers. But I don't think this will be an industry standard. I mean, I think
Hmm.
it will happen a lot more, but I think it won't be an industry standard because everybody doesn't have the power to make
Hmm.
that happen. You know what I'm saying? Like Ryan Coogler, all of his films have been hits, so obviously he can
Bruh.
ask for certain things that other people can't.
Exactly. I think, Dunning-Kruger effect is a real thing, and people sometimes feel like they are more capable or qualified or competent than they actually are. And then they start getting entitled to shit that they haven't earned yet. And that's a different
Mm-hmm.
conversation. But if anybody's earned this shit, it's Cougs. And I think you had told me even before we started talking, like before we started recording the pod, that he was like $200,000 in student loan debt when he made Creed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important because I'm also a person who took on a lot of student loan debt, and part of me understands the sacrifice that you're making to take a shot on yourself in the future. So you don't know when you're gathering all this debt for school and shit like that if this is going to pay off or if you're going to be able to pay this shit off. But I feel like the way Cougs had like this unwavering faith in himself, the people around him, and bringing that shit to life. Zinzi, is that her name, Zinzi?
Yeah, his wife. Mm-hmm.
Zinzi Cougs even bought him his script writing software when he couldn't afford it. Like she bought
Yep.
him, what was it? I don't remember what the exact software was, but
It was, yeah.
she invested it and actually paid for that for him because she believed in him. So I think, he has this unwavering faith in himself, and I think he's actually earned that. Not only does he produce like quality projects when you're talking about Fruitvale, when you're talking about Creed, Black
Mm-hmm.
Panther, and now Sinners, Cooks has a relationship with his fans that I can only compare to the relationship that J. Cole has with his fans.
Yes, I
It's
knew he was gonna say
yeah,
that.
it's almost like he had like we show up for J. Cole in a way that because he's J. Cole, because he's relatable, because we love J. Cole in our hearts. That's why we show, and that's not saying that he's not talented. That's just without the talent. Like that's just the added bonus that he's talented. We would love J. Cole regardless, and I feel like we feel the same way about Cougs and his work, where Cougs being kind of like a fucking savant when it comes to filmmaking is just an added bonus on top of the fact that Cougs seems like such a relatable individual and a person who has not gotten lost in what the industry tends to do to people sometimes. Like Cougs is still
Mm-hmm.
authentic to his own creativity, to the way he wants to tell stories, and he doesn't seem to be willing to dilute anything that he wants to say or do in Hollywood for the sake of like propriety or respectability. And somehow he's been able to do this work authentically this entire time. So if anybody's entitled to ownership and making certain deals with fucking Warner Brothers, then it's probably Cougs. And I think, man, again, I don't know if I can say enough about this guy. Like, whatever, I'm sucking dick at this point, but like, I'll take it. I will take it.
Respectfully, Zenzi, respectfully.
Yes, yes, obviously, I would never suck a dick.
Okay.
uh,
All right. Let's give our final takeaways. My final takeaway for this film, Sinners, is that I need friends like Ryan Coogler. Give me friends that push me to be better, that always think of me when opportunities come, that shout me out when I'm not in the room, that just know how to elevate me and get me
mhm.
to be the best person I can be. You are that friend for me, but I'm just saying,
Same.
give me a whole squad of them. Give me a football team of friends like that. That's what I want.
I think we are what we seek, right? Like I think we are the people we surround ourselves with. And as you're saying that, I was thinking, damn, everybody around me makes me feel that way. In a sense of like, I don't think I have anybody around me that doesn't inspire me, that doesn't make me feel like I should be doing more. You, Tosh, Alexis, Chad, like all, the people around me that are in my life at this
Mm-hmm.
moment are people that are constantly pushing me forward in the similar dynamic we see with Cougs and Michael B. Jordan. I think when I have my final thought, and I know I talked to you about this, and I'm glad it's going at the final thought so nobody can like hang me upside down because of it. I just want to say that I'm so thankful that Cougs is getting the recognition that he's always deserved. I'm so thankful that he brought the best out of Michael B. Jordan. I'm thankful that
Hmm.
there's so much critical thought taking place about this movie and that people are talking about a black ass movie in the way that we are. I just want to say that I feel like Lovecraft Country did something similar. And I feel like Misha Green didn't get the credit she deserved. I'm not saying that they did it to the same scale. And
Hmm.
as far as like Lovecraft Country being this perfect 10 out of 10 on 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and all that other stuff, sure, there were some things that could have been built out and there were some kinks that need to be worked out. I would not have given it a 10 out of 10, but it was a beautiful ode to like ancestral roots, Black
Hmm.
mysticism, the Jim Crow South. There was a lot of historical representation, almost the same way, not the same way, it's not the same at all, but the way Ludwig had taken music and made it a character. They took speeches and artifacts from different time periods and brought that into Lovecraft Country. And I just want to plug that if you enjoyed Coog's work, if you enjoyed this writing, if you enjoyed this type of storytelling, that you should definitely check out Lovecraft Country if you haven't. And maybe you like Sinners because you like Lovecraft Country. But I
Hmm.
also just want to plug Misha Green as a fantastic writer and someone that was telling this type of story a while ago and deserved a little bit more think pieces and critical thought around her work as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And we always say that both can exist at the same
Exactly.
time. So I agree. Love Lovecraft Country. It does not take anything away from Sinners. We just
Exactly.
wish that Lovecraft Country would still be on television and that it
Hmm.
would have received the awards and the recognition that we
Hmm.
know it deserved.
Yes.
So, thank you so much for tuning into this random pop up episode of Sinners, our review of Sinners. We are so thankful that you guys are still sticking it out with us, and we're happy for our newcomers. We hope that you guys will stick around because we have a lot more things coming this summer. And make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok and sign up for our newsletter so that you can join us for our in person and virtual watch parties where you get to talk about these films with us directly because we love to have good conversations about film and television, sex, and Black girl magic. You know how we do.
Always.
All right, until next time, we love you always. I'm Mia Danae,
I'm Trish.
and we'll see you next time. Bye.